She shouldn't have come back to New York. The moment Linda Blake stepped off the Greyhound bus at Port Authority, her ex-boyfriend's voice echoed in her mind like a curse she couldn't shake. 3 months of hiding in a small Pennsylvania town hadn't been enough. He'd found her cell number, left messages that turned from pleading to threatening. And now, desperate for work and running out of money, she'd returned to the one city where she knew he'd be waiting. She'd lasted exactly 4 hours before spotting him across the crowded Italian restaurant where she'd just started her evening shift. Her heart stopped. He was coming toward her, his expression dark with possession and rage. Without thinking, Linda dropped to her knees and crawled under the nearest table, squeezing herself between a pair of expensive leather shoes and the tablecloth, her breath coming in panicked gasps. The man above her went completely still. Then a hand reached down, strong fingers tilting her chin up, and she found herself staring into the darkest, most dangerous eyes she'd ever seen. Something shifted in his gaze. Something primal, possessive, hungry, and Linda knew with absolute certainty that her life would never be the same. Welcome, besties. Please like, share, subscribe, and tell me where you're watching from. The man's voice came low and controlled, speaking Italian to someone across from him. Linda's heart hammered so hard, she thought everyone in the restaurant could hear it. She pressed herself smaller against his legs, feeling the warmth of him through the expensive fabric of his suit pants, her hands trembling as they gripped the edge of his chair for balance. His hand remained on her face, thumb stroking her cheek in a gesture so gentle it made her breath catch despite her terror. Above her, the conversation continued in rapid Italian. She didn't understand the words, but she understood the tone. Absolute authority. The kind of voice that expected obedience without question. Her ex's voice cut through her panic, loud and angry, asking the hostess something. Linda flinched, pressing closer to the stranger's leg without thinking, and felt rather than heard his sharp intake of breath. The hand on her face tightened slightly, then moved to her hair, fingers threading through the dark curls in what felt absurdly like comfort. She should move, should crawl out and face her problems like an adult. But his presence above her felt like safety, like a shield between her and the man who'd spent 6 months making her life hell after she'd tried to end things. The man who'd shown up at her old job repeatedly until she'd been fired. Who'd followed her to her apartment. Who'd made threats veiled as love until she'd fled the city entirely. The next moment, she heard her ex's voice much closer, demanding to know if anyone had seen a woman matching her description. The stranger's leg shifted, blocking her more completely from view. His shoe moved, creating a barrier. And when he spoke, his English was perfect, accented with Italian richness that made every word sound like dark honey. I've seen no one. You're disturbing my meal. Leave. The command in those 3 words made Linda shiver. Her ex started to argue, but another voice joined in, deeper, more threatening. Security. Through a gap in the tablecloth, Linda saw her ex being escorted toward the door, his protests fading as he was firmly removed from the restaurant. She should leave now, thank the stranger, and disappear. But her legs wouldn't cooperate, shaking too badly to support her weight. Above her, chairs scraped as his dining companions apparently excused themselves. Then the tablecloth lifted, and the man crouched down to her level, bringing his face into her hidden space. Linda's breath stopped entirely. He was devastating. Mid-30s, with sharp features that looked carved from marble, dark hair swept back from a face that belonged in Renaissance paintings, and those eyes, black as midnight and twice as deep, currently fixed on her with an intensity that made her skin flush hot despite her fear. Who is he? The stranger asked, his voice quiet but commanding. My ex-boyfriend. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have, I panicked. Linda's words tumbled over each other. I'll leave. I just started working here tonight, and I've already caused a scene. I'm so sorry. His eyes narrowed slightly. You work here? She nodded, still pressed against his leg, suddenly aware of how inappropriate this entire situation was. Tonight's my first shift. Was my first shift. They'll probably fire me now. Something flickered across his face. Calculation. decision. Then he reached down and took her hand, his grip warm and steady.
Come.
Not to fire you, to ensure you're safe. He pulled her gently but firmly out from under the table, steadying her when she stumbled on shaking legs. Linda found herself standing in the restaurant's back corner booth, partially hidden from the main dining area by decorative screens. The man released her hand slowly, his fingers trailing against her palm in a way that sent electricity up her arm. He was tall, easily 6'3", with shoulders that strained his custom-tailored suit and a presence that seemed to fill the entire space. Sit, he commanded softly, gesturing to the booth. You're trembling. Linda sat, because her legs gave her no choice. He slid in across from her, his gaze never leaving her face. A waiter appeared instantly, setting down fresh water and asking something in Italian. The stranger responded without breaking eye contact with her, and the waiter disappeared. I'm Lorenzo, he said. Lorenzo Russo. And you are hiding from a dangerous man. It wasn't a question. Linda wrapped her shaking hands around the water glass. Linda Blake. And yes, he's not dangerous exactly, just obsessive. Controlling. He can't accept that I ended things. Lorenzo's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. How long? 6 months since I broke up with him. 3 months since I left the city trying to get away. I came back because I ran out of money and I needed work. Stupid. She laughed bitterly. I lasted 4 hours before he found me. The waiter returned with a plate of food, pasta in a cream sauce that smelled divine. Lorenzo pushed it toward her.
Eat.
You're pale. Linda shook her head. I can't. I need to find the manager, apologize, probably get my things from the back. You'll do nothing of the sort. This is my restaurant. You work for me now. His words were simple, absolute. Linda's eyes widened. Your restaurant? But I applied through a staffing agency. They said the owner was some businessman who never comes in. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. I come in when something interests me. Tonight, something did. The way he said it made heat bloom in Linda's chest. She looked down at her hands, unable to hold his intense gaze. I can't accept special treatment because of what happened. It wouldn't be right. You can and will accept that I've decided you're under my protection now. Your ex will not bother you again. The certainty in his voice should have seemed arrogant. Instead, it felt like a promise.
A vow.
Linda's throat tightened with unexpected emotion. You don't even know me. Why would you do that? Lorenzo leaned forward slightly, his presence overwhelming even across the table. Because the moment you pressed yourself against me seeking safety, something in me recognized something in you. And what's mine, I protect. The possessiveness in those words should have frightened her. After months of her ex's controlling behavior, she should have recognized the warning signs. But this felt different. Lorenzo's intensity didn't feel suffocating. It felt like shelter. Like the first deep breath after drowning. I should get back to work, she managed. If I really still have a job. His eyes flickered with something dark and pleased. You have a job, but not serving tables. Come. He stood and held out his hand. Linda hesitated for only a heartbeat before placing her palm in his. His fingers closed around hers with careful strength, and he led her through the restaurant to a back hallway she hadn't noticed before. They passed the kitchen, climbed a narrow staircase, and emerged into an office that overlooked the dining room through one-way glass. It was elegant and masculine, all dark wood and leather, with a massive desk and walls lined with what looked like genuine Italian art. Lorenzo released her hand, moving to the window to look down at his restaurant. You'll work here, as my personal assistant. Your job will be to help me with paperwork, correspondence, anything I need. The pay will be triple what you'd make serving tables. Linda's mind reeled. I don't understand. Why would you do this? He turned to face her, hands in his pockets, perfectly controlled except for the heat in his eyes. Because you need protection, and I need someone I can trust near me. Because in the 5 minutes you spent pressed against my leg, I felt more than I've felt in years. Because I don't like coincidence, and you appearing in my restaurant tonight feels like fate. The intensity of his words stole her breath. You don't know anything about me. I could be anyone. I could be dangerous. His smile was slow and devastating. Cara Mia, I'm the dangerous one. You're the one who needs protecting. And whether you realize it yet or not, you're already mine to protect. The possessiveness should have triggered every warning bell. Instead, Linda felt something warm unfurl in her chest. Something that felt dangerously like hope. When do I start? His eyes flashed with triumph. Tomorrow, 9 in the morning. Marco will pick you up. Marco. My driver and head of security. Give me your address. Linda rattled off her apartment location in Queens, watching his expression darken. That neighborhood is not safe for a woman alone, especially one being stalked. She bristled slightly. It's what I can afford. Lorenzo pulled out his phone, typed something quickly. Not anymore. I have a property in the Upper West Side. Fully furnished. Security building. You'll move in this weekend. I can't accept that. That's too much. She shook her head firmly. It's practical. You'll be working for me, potentially late hours. Having you closer makes sense. And I don't like thinking of you alone in that apartment, vulnerable. The care in his voice melted her resistance. I don't know what to say. Say yes. Say you'll let me keep you safe. His voice dropped lower. Say you felt it too. That moment when you touched me. Linda's pulse hammered. She had felt it. The electric shock of connection, like her body had recognized him on some primal level. Like she'd been waiting her whole life for those dark eyes to find her. I felt it, she whispered. Lorenzo crossed the distance between them in 2 strides. He didn't touch her, but he stood close enough that she had to tilt her head back to meet his gaze. Close enough that she could smell him, expensive cologne, and something uniquely male that made her dizzy. Then we understand each other. You're mine to protect now, Linda. And I protect what's mine absolutely. His hand rose, fingers brushing her cheek in an echo of that first touch under the table. Your ex will never touch you again. No one will hurt you while you're under my care. This I vow. Tears burned behind her eyes. She'd been alone and afraid for so long. The idea of someone powerful standing between her and her nightmares felt too good to be true. Why me? She asked again. His thumb traced her lower lip, the touch feather-light but scorching. Because you crawled under my table seeking safety and woke something in me I thought was dead. Because you're beautiful and brave and frightened, and every protective instinct I possess demands I keep you safe. Because the moment I touched you, something in my soul said mine. The raw honesty in his words shattered her last defenses. Linda swayed toward him, drawn by a force she couldn't name. Lorenzo's other hand came up to cup her face, holding her gently, his eyes searching hers.
Say yes.
Trust me with your safety. She should be cautious, should question this impossible offer from a stranger. But her instincts, the same ones that had screamed at her to run from her ex, were now singing a different song. This man was dangerous, yes, but not to her. Never to her. Yes, she breathed. I'll trust you. The satisfaction that blazed across his face stole her breath. He leaned down slowly, giving her every chance to pull away, and pressed his lips to her forehead in a gesture so tender it made her chest ache. Then you're safe now, Cara. I swear it. Later that night, Lorenzo had Marco drive Linda home, following in his own car to ensure she reached her apartment safely. He walked her to her door despite her protests, his presence making the dingy hallway seem less threatening. At her door, he produced a business card with his personal cell number written on the back. Call me if anything concerns you. Anything at all. I don't care what time it is. His voice was firm. Linda took the card, her fingers brushing his. Thank you. For everything tonight. His eyes darkened. Don't thank me yet, Linda. We're only beginning. He left her with that promise hanging in the air. Linda locked herself inside her tiny apartment and slid down the door, her heart racing. What had she just agreed to? Who was Lorenzo Russo really? She pulled out her phone and searched his name, her eyes widening at the results. Articles called him the Prince of Little Italy. Speculation about family connections to organized crime mixed with legitimate business empire coverage. Photos of him at charity galas with beautiful women on his arm. Nothing concrete, just smoke suggesting fire underneath. She should be terrified. Should recognize this as another controlling man ready to dominate her life. But when she closed her eyes, all she felt was the warmth of his hand on her face, the absolute certainty in his voice when he'd promised her safety, and the way something in her soul had responded to him with a resounding yes. The next morning, Linda was ready at 8:30, dressed in the most professional outfit she owned, a simple black dress and heels that made her curvy figure look polished rather than provocative. At exactly 9, a text came from an unknown number. Marco is downstairs. A sleek black SUV waited at the curb, and a man who looked like he could bench press a car opened the rear door. Miss Blake. I'm Marco. Boss says to take good care of you. His accent was thick, but his English was clear. Linda slid into the back seat, feeling surreal. Yesterday, she'd been a broke waitress. Today, she had a driver taking her to work at a mysterious Italian businessman's personal office. The drive into Manhattan took 40 minutes. Marco delivered her to the restaurant's private entrance, and a woman in an elegant suit met her with a warm smile. Linda, welcome. I'm Rosa, Lorenzo's executive assistant. He asked me to get you settled. Rosa led her up to the office Linda had seen last night, which looked even more impressive in daylight. A smaller desk had been positioned near the window, already equipped with a computer and supplies. You'll work from here. Lorenzo comes in around 10. He has meetings this morning, but he wanted you to start familiarizing yourself with the business. Here's the overview file. Rosa handed her a thick folder, then paused. Can I say something personal? At Linda's nod, she continued. I've worked for Lorenzo for 6 years. He's demanding but fair, protective of those he considers his people. Whatever made him decide you needed to be here, close to him, protected, it's not something he does lightly. You're safe with him. Safer than anywhere else in this city. The words settled something anxious in Linda's chest. Thank you. Rosa smiled. Oh, and fair warning, he's incredibly possessive. If someone even looks at you wrong, he'll notice. It comes from a good place, but it can be intense. Just so you know what you're walking into. After Rosa left, Linda settled at her new desk and opened the file. The restaurant was just the tip of Lorenzo's empire. He owned properties throughout Manhattan, had investments in shipping, construction, and what looked like completely legitimate import-export businesses. Successful, powerful, connected. And he decided she needed his protection.
Why?
She was still puzzling over it when the office door opened and Lorenzo walked in. He wore a different suit today, charcoal gray that made his dark eyes even more striking. His gaze went immediately to her, sweeping over her in a way that made her skin heat. Buongiorno, cara. You look beautiful. His voice was warm, intimate. Linda's fingers tightened on the folder. Good morning. Rosa got me started with the overview file. Lorenzo moved to his desk, but his eyes never left her. What do you think? I think you're not just a restaurant owner. His smile was dangerous.
No.
I'm not. Does that frighten you? She considered. It should, but it doesn't. Something hot and satisfied flashed in his expression.
Good.
Because I'm going to be very honest with you, Linda. I want you here where I can see you, where I know you're safe. Having you at that desk where I can watch you work is going to become my favorite part of the day. The intensity of his words made her breath catch. Lorenzo. Say it again. My name. I like how it sounds in your voice. His command was soft but absolute. Lorenzo. This time, she let the Italian pronunciation roll naturally, and his eyes went molten. Perfetto. Now, let's discuss your ex-boyfriend. Give me his full name. Linda's comfort evaporated. Why? Lorenzo's expression hardened. Because I'm going to make certain he never comes near you again. I have resources. Ways of ensuring he understands that you're under protection now. What's his name? She should refuse. Should handle her own problems. But the memory of her ex's face last night, the months of fear and hiding, made the words spill out. David Chun. He works in finance. Lives in Battery Park. Lorenzo pulled out his phone, typed a message. Considered handled. Fear spiked. What are you going to do? His eyes met hers, and she saw something cold and ruthless beneath the warmth he showed her. Nothing he doesn't deserve. I won't harm him unless he forces my hand. But he'll receive a visit, a conversation, an explanation that you're no longer available to him in any capacity, that you belong to someone now. Someone who won't tolerate his harassment. The possessiveness should have angered her. Instead, Linda felt relief so powerful it made her dizzy. Thank you. Lorenzo stood and crossed to her desk, leaning against it with casual grace. Anything that threatens your peace threatens me. Remember that. They stared at each other for a long moment, tension building until Linda had to look away. She heard his quiet laugh. We should get to work. But tonight, after hours, we're going to have dinner. Just us. I want to know everything about you. That sounds like a date. It is a date. The first of many. His certainty made her pulse race. The day passed in a blur of work, but Linda remained hyper-aware of Lorenzo's presence. He took meetings in his office while she handled correspondence and phone calls, learning his business with surprising ease. Every so often she'd catch him watching her, his expression unreadable but intense. Around 2, Rosa brought lunch for both of them. They ate together at the small conference table near the window, and Lorenzo asked her questions. About her family, her life before David, her dreams. Linda found herself opening up to him in ways she hadn't with anyone in years. I used to paint, she admitted. Before David. He said it was a waste of time, that I should focus on being supportive of his career. Eventually, I just stopped. Lorenzo's jaw tightened. He stole your art from you. I let him. She shook her head. I was so desperate to make the relationship work that I made myself smaller and smaller until I didn't recognize who I'd become. His hand covered hers on the table. You'll paint again. There's an art studio in the building where I'm moving you. Top floor. Natural light. Whatever supplies you need, you'll have. Tears burned her eyes. Why are you being so kind to me? Because you deserve kindness. Because seeing you come alive when you talk about painting makes me want to give you the world. Because you're mine now, and I take care of what's mine. That word again.
Mine.
It should feel like chains. Instead it felt like wings. I don't know how to accept this. All of it. The job, the apartment, your protection. Lorenzo's thumb stroked across her knuckles. Accept it the way you accepted hiding under my table last night. By trusting your instincts. What do your instincts tell you about me, Linda? She met his dark eyes, feeling the pull between them like gravity. That you're dangerous. But not to me. That you mean every word you say. That you're going to consume my entire life, if I let you. His smile was slow and devastating. Your instincts are excellent. I am going to consume your life. Every thought. Every moment. Until you can't remember what it was like before me. The promise made her shiver. That should scare me. But it doesn't. Because you want to be consumed. You want to surrender to this thing between us. His voice dropped lower. Say I'm wrong. Linda couldn't say it. Because he wasn't wrong. From the moment she'd touched him, she'd felt this pull, this need to be closer. To let him wrap her in his strength and protection. To trust him with parts of herself she'd locked away. You're not wrong, she whispered. Satisfaction blazed in his eyes. Then we understand each other perfectly. That evening after the staff had left, Lorenzo locked the office door and poured them both wine from a bottle that probably cost more than Linda's rent. They sat on the leather sofa near the window, watching the city lights sparkle below, and he asked her to tell him everything about David. Every moment of control, every warning sign she'd ignored, every instance of fear. Linda found herself spilling it all. The way David had isolated her from friends. How he tracked her phone and showed up unannounced. The jealousy that turned violent when she'd spoken to male coworkers. The night he'd grabbed her wrist hard enough to leave bruises when she'd suggested breaking up. How she'd finally fled after he'd shown up at her apartment with a key she hadn't given him, letting himself in while she slept. He would have hurt me, she said quietly. I saw it in his eyes that night. Like he owned me and I'd betrayed him by wanting to leave. Lorenzo's hand tightened on his wine glass, his knuckles white. He'll never touch you again. I swear this on my life, Linda. Never again. The vow sounded like a blood oath. I believe you. She turned to face him. But I need to understand what I'm walking into. Rosa said you're possessive. That you protect your people. But who are you really, Lorenzo? The articles online suggest things I don't know how to process. He set down his glass and turned his body toward hers, close enough that she could feel his heat. My family has been in this city for 4 generations. We came from Sicily with nothing and built an empire. Some of it legitimate, some of it operating in shadows. I won't lie to you about what I am or what I do. I have power, influence, resources most people can only imagine. And yes, some of that power exists outside the law. His honesty stole her breath. You're telling me you're connected to organized crime. I'm telling you that I'm a businessman who operates in many spheres. That I protect my interests and my people through whatever means necessary. That I'm ruthless with enemies and loyal beyond death to those I claim as mine. His hand rose to her face, fingers threading into her hair. And I'm telling you that I've claimed you, Linda. From the moment you sought safety from me, you became mine to protect. That means no one touches you. No one threatens you. No one takes what's mine without facing me. The possessiveness in his words made her dizzy. I'm not a possession.
No.
You're something more precious than that. You're the woman who woke something in me I thought had died. The woman I'm going to spend every day proving deserves my protection, my devotion, my everything. His thumb traced her lower lip. Tell me to stop. Tell me you don't feel this thing between us. Lie to me, and I'll let you walk away. Keep you safe from a distance. Give you the job and apartment with no strings. Say the word. Linda's heart thundered. She should say it. Should protect herself. But her body swayed toward him, drawn by a force stronger than logic. I can't lie to you. I feel it. This pull. Like my soul recognizes you. Lorenzo's eyes went molten. Then let me kiss you. Let me show you that this thing between us is real. He leaned closer, his lips a breath from hers. Say yes, cara mia. Yes. The word barely left her lips before Lorenzo captured them with his own. The kiss was gentle at first, testing, but when Linda whimpered and pressed closer, it deepened into something consuming. His hand tightened in her hair, tilting her head back as his tongue swept against hers, tasting her thoroughly. Linda's hands clutched his shoulders, feeling the hard muscle beneath expensive fabric, and she made a sound that was half gasp, half moan. Lorenzo groaned against her mouth, his free hand sliding to her waist and pulling her closer until she was nearly in his lap. The kiss turned desperate, months of loneliness and fear melting away in the heat of his touch. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Linda's lips felt swollen and her mind felt gloriously blank except for one thought more. Lorenzo pressed his forehead to hers, his breathing unsteady. You're mine now.
Say it.
Say you're mine. I'm yours. The words felt like truth, like surrender, like freedom. His arms wrapped around her, pulling her fully onto his lap, and she went willingly, burying her face in his neck and breathing in his scent. They sat like that for long minutes, his hand stroking her back in soothing patterns while her heartbeat gradually slowed. I'm going to court you properly, Lorenzo finally said.
Dates. Gifts.
Romance. I want to do this right. Linda pulled back to look at him. But you've already decided I'm yours. His smile was unapologetic.
Yes.
But you deserve to be wooed. To be shown that you're precious. To understand that what I feel for you isn't just possessiveness, it's devotion. The difference in those words made all the difference. The next day, Linda moved into her new apartment. Lorenzo had insisted on handling everything, and when she arrived with her few belongings, she found a space that looked like something from a magazine. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Central Park, hardwood floors gleamed under elegant furniture, and her bedroom held a bed so large and luxurious she wanted to cry. But it was the top-floor studio that broke her. Lorenzo had set it up with every supply an artist could dream of. Paints, brushes, canvases, easels, everything organized perfectly. A note in his bold handwriting read, "Paint whatever moves you. Your art deserves to exist.
L.
She called him immediately, her voice thick with emotion. Lorenzo, this is too much. It's not enough. I want you surrounded by beauty. Want you to remember who you were before he tried to break you.
His voice was warm.
Do you like it? I love it. Thank you. She wiped her eyes. I don't know how to repay you for all of this. His laugh was low and intimate. Paint for me. Let me see the world through your eyes. That's payment enough. That night, for the first time in years, Linda stood before a blank canvas and let her emotions flow onto it. Over the following weeks, they fell into a routine that felt both domestic and charged with tension. Linda worked at Lorenzo's side daily, learning his business, fielding calls, managing his schedule. He was demanding but patient, his expectations high, but his praise generous. And always, he watched her with those dark eyes that made her feel seen in ways she'd never experienced. He courted her exactly as promised. Flowers delivered to the office daily. Dinners at exclusive restaurants where he asked about her art, her dreams, her thoughts on everything from politics to philosophy. Weekend drives upstate to see fall foliage, his hand possessively wrapped around hers. Each date ended with kisses that grew progressively more intense, leaving Linda aching and breathless. But Lorenzo never pushed for more, seeming content to build this foundation slowly, despite the fire between them. Then came the night that changed everything. They'd been at a charity gala, one of Lorenzo's obligations. Linda had worn a dress he'd had delivered to her apartment, deep burgundy that hugged her curves and made her feel beautiful. She'd watched him work the room with easy charm, powerful men and women seeking his attention, and felt pride that she was the one leaving with him. Until she'd gone to the restroom and emerged to find a man blocking her path. Tall, blonde, drunk, and too close. Hey, beautiful. Saw you with Russo. What's a pretty thing like you doing with a man like that? Linda stepped back. Excuse me.
He grabbed her wrist.
Come on, don't be like that. Let me buy you a drink. Show you what a real man is like. She jerked her arm, trying to free herself, and his grip tightened. Let go of me. Playing hard to get? I like that. Then Lorenzo was there, appearing from nowhere, his hand clamping on the drunk man's arm with crushing force. Release her.
Now.
His voice was death itself. The man paled, recognizing danger. Hey man, I didn't know she was with you. Just being friendly. Lorenzo's smile was terrifying. You touched what's mine. That's not friendly. That's suicide. He twisted the man's arm with casual brutality, forcing him to release Linda's wrist. Apologize to her. Then leave before I forget we're in public. The man stammered an apology and fled. Linda stood frozen, her heart racing. Lorenzo immediately pulled her into his arms, his hands running over her as if checking for injury. Did he hurt you? Tell me truth.
No.
I'm okay. Just shaken. Her voice trembled. Lorenzo's jaw clenched. I should have killed him. Should have broken every finger that touched you. The violence in his words should have frightened her. Instead, Linda felt heat pool low in her stomach. This was what he'd promised. Absolute protection. Ruthless devotion. She pressed closer to him, her hands fisting in his suit jacket. Take me home. His eyes blazed. Your home or mine? Yours. The word was surrender. Lorenzo called for his car, and they rode in tense silence, his arm around her shoulders, his other hand gripping her thigh possessively. When they reached his penthouse, spanning the top floor of a building overlooking the river, Linda barely noticed the luxury. All she could see was him. All she could feel was the need burning through her veins. Lorenzo poured them both drinks, with hands that weren't quite steady. Linda, we don't have to. She set down her untouched glass and crossed to him, silencing his words with her mouth on his. The kiss was immediately desperate, all the weeks of tension exploding between them. Lorenzo groaned and lifted her, her legs wrapping around his waist as he carried her to his bedroom. What followed was a blur of sensation. Gentle hands removing her dress with reverent care. His mouth on her skin making her gasp and arch whispered words in Italian that sounded like prayers. The overwhelming feeling of being cherished, possessed, claimed completely. Lorenzo made love to her like she was something precious and breakable, even as his hands gripped her with possessive strength. And when they finally came together, moving in perfect rhythm, Linda felt something in her soul shift and settle, like she'd found her home in his arms. Afterward, they lay tangled together, his fingers tracing patterns on her bare skin. "You're mine now." Completely, Lorenzo murmured against her hair. "No more fear. No more running. You live under my protection in my home, in my heart. Say you understand." Linda pressed a kiss to his chest, right over his thundering heartbeat. "I understand. I'm yours." But even as she said it, old fears whispered. She'd surrendered to David's control too. Had thought his possessiveness was love until it became a cage. What if Lorenzo was the same? What if she'd just traded one prison for another? As if sensing her thoughts, Lorenzo tilted her face up to his. "I know what you're thinking, that you've made this mistake before. But cara mia, I'm not him. I'm never going to clip your wings. I'm going to be the wind that helps you soar." She wanted to believe him. "How do I know that?" "Because I'm going to prove it every single day. Starting now." He kissed her forehead. "Tell me one thing you want to do. Something you've been afraid to try, or thought you couldn't have."
Anything.
Linda thought. "I want to have an art showing. Display my work publicly. David always said my paintings were amateurish, that I'd embarrass myself if anyone saw them." Lorenzo's expression went cold with rage. He was a fool. "Your art is extraordinary, and you're going to have your showing. I'll arrange everything." "Lorenzo, that's not what I meant. You don't have to." "I want to. Let me give this to you. Let me help you reclaim what he stole." His intensity overwhelmed her. But this time it didn't feel controlling. It felt like support, like someone believing in her enough to move mountains on her behalf. "Okay," she whispered. "Thank you." They made love again, slower this time, and Linda fell asleep in his arms feeling safer than she had in years. She woke alone. Sunlight streamed through unfamiliar windows. Lorenzo's side of the bed was cold. Panic seized her. He'd gotten what he wanted, and now he was done with her. She'd been stupid to trust again, to surrender so completely. Linda dressed quickly in last night's clothing and was searching for her phone when Lorenzo walked in carrying a tray. He wore pajama pants and nothing else, his chest bare and marked with scratches she'd left in her passion. He stopped when he saw her fully dressed, his expression darkening. "Where are you going?" "Home. I mean back to my apartment. I should let you get on with your day." The words tumbled out nervously. Lorenzo set down the tray with deliberate care. "Why do you look like you're running?" "I'm not running. I'm just being considerate. You probably have work." "Look at me, Linda." His command stopped her movements. She raised her eyes to his. "Do you think last night meant nothing to me? That I'm the kind of man who takes a woman to his bed and discards her in the morning?" Put like that, it sounded ridiculous. But old wounds spoke louder than logic. David always disappeared after. Said he needed space. Made me feel like I'd done something wrong by wanting him. Lorenzo crossed to her in 3 strides and cupped her face in his hands. "I'm not David. I will never be David. Last night was the most significant night of my life. You gave yourself to me, trusted me with your body and your heart, and I treasure that gift. I'm not disappearing. I went to make you breakfast because I wanted to take care of you." Tears burned her eyes. "I'm sorry. I'm broken. I don't know how to trust yet. Then I'll teach you. Every morning, every night, until you understand that I'm never leaving you." He kissed her with aching tenderness. "Stay. Have breakfast with me. Let me prove I mean what I say." She stayed. They ate together on his balcony, talking and laughing as the city woke below them. Lorenzo announced he was taking the day off, something Rosa informed Linda he never did, and they spent it together. Walking through the park, visiting galleries where he asked her opinion on every piece, cooking dinner together in his massive kitchen, making a mess and laughing like children. That night, he made love to her again, slower and deeper, whispering words of devotion in Italian that she was beginning to understand. And when she woke the next morning, he was there, watching her with such warmth in his eyes that her remaining defenses crumbled. "Buongiorno, amore mio," he murmured, pulling her close. "Good morning, my love." She echoed the endearment back to him, feeling the truth of it settle into her bones. She loved him. Impossibly, completely, dangerously in love with this dark prince who'd claimed her as his own. 2 months passed in blissful routine. Linda's art studio became her sanctuary, and true to his word, Lorenzo arranged for her to have a showing at a prestigious gallery. Her paintings, raw and emotional explorations of fear and freedom, captivity and flight, received genuine praise from critics and collectors alike. Lorenzo stood beside her at the opening, his arm around her waist, pride radiating from every inch of him. "I told you the world needed to see your gift," he murmured in her ear. "Thank you for believing in me." She turned in his arms, pressing a kiss to his jaw. "Thank you for giving me the freedom to try." That night, after they'd returned to his penthouse that had become their home, Lorenzo presented her with a small velvet box. Linda's heart stopped. "Lorenzo." "Open it." Inside was a key. "The studio building. I bought it. The entire top floor is yours now. Your space to create anything you want. No one can take it from you. It's yours legally in your name." Not a ring, but somehow more meaningful. Her own space. Her own security. A gift that said he trusted her to have something separate from him. "I don't know what to say." "Say you'll marry me." The words stole her breath. Lorenzo took the box, set it aside, and pulled out a different one. This held a ring, an antique setting with a deep red stone surrounded by diamonds. "Marry me, Linda. Be my wife. Let me spend my life proving you made the right choice when you trusted me under that table 6 months ago." 6 months. It felt like a lifetime and a heartbeat all at once. She knew it was fast, knew she should be cautious. But every instinct that had warned her about David was now singing that Lorenzo was different. That his possessiveness came from devotion, not control. That his protection was a gift, not a cage. "Yes." She laughed through tears. "Yes, I'll marry you." Lorenzo slid the ring onto her finger and pulled her into a kiss that promised forever. They set a date for 3 months away. Small ceremony, just family and close friends. Linda had no family left, her parents having passed years ago, but Lorenzo's family embraced her with overwhelming warmth. His mother, a tiny firecracker of a woman, declared Linda was too thin and made it her mission to feed her constantly. His 3 brothers, all involved in various aspects of the family business, treated her with protective affection that both touched and amused her. But perfect happiness, Linda was learning, never lasted. The first threat came via text message to her phone. A photo of her leaving the art studio. No words, just the image. She showed Lorenzo immediately, watching his expression turn to stone. "How did someone get your private number?" "I don't know. I haven't given it to anyone except," she stopped, "David." She'd kept her old number, and David had it. But he'd been silent for months. Why surface now? Lorenzo made a call, speaking rapid Italian. Then he turned to her. "You're not going anywhere alone. Marco drives you everywhere. Security accompanies you to the studio. No arguments." Linda wanted to protest that he was overreacting, but the fear in his eyes stopped her. "You think this is serious. I think someone wants to threaten what's mine. And I take all threats seriously." He pulled her close. "I won't lose you, Linda. I can't." His intensity should have felt smothering. Instead, it felt like safety. More messages came over the following days. Photos of Linda shopping, at the gallery, getting coffee. Someone was following her constantly, and Lorenzo's security hadn't spotted them. "They're professional," Marco told them grimly. "This isn't some obsessed ex. This is someone with training." "Who?" Linda asked. "Who would do this?" Lorenzo exchanged a look with Marco. "I have enemies. People who'd like to hurt me by taking what I value most. This could be any of them. Then we go to the police." She grabbed her phone. Lorenzo gently took it from her. And tell them what? That someone is taking pictures of you in public places? They'll say there's no crime. We need more before we can act. So, what do? We wait. We watch. We prepare.
His jaw set.
And when they make their move, we end this. Linda hated waiting. Hated being watched constantly by both protectors and stalkers. Hated the fear that crept back into her life, making her jump at shadows. A week after the messages started, they stopped. Silence. Lorenzo's security remained on high alert, but days passed with nothing. Linda began to breathe easier, hoping whoever it was had given up. Then came the night that shattered her world. She'd been working late at the studio, so absorbed in a new painting that she'd lost track of time. Marco was outside, but she was alone in the building. The lights went out. All of them. Emergency lighting failed to kick in. Complete darkness. Linda's heart hammered as she fumbled for her phone. Before she could call anyone, hands grabbed her from behind. Linda screamed, but a hand clamped over her mouth. She fought wildly, kicking and clawing, but her attacker was strong, lifting her like she weighed nothing. "Stop fighting," a familiar voice growled. "David." Terror turned her blood to ice. He dragged her toward the back exit, and she realized with horror that he'd planned this. Cut the power, known Marco was out front, found a way to get her alone. She bit down hard on his hand. He cursed and released her mouth long enough for her to scream Lorenzo, with everything in her lungs. David slapped her, the blow stunning her. "He's not your savior. I am. You're coming back where you belong." But Linda's scream had been heard. The studio door crashed open, and suddenly Marco was there, gun drawn. "Release her now." David pulled out a knife, pressing it to Linda's throat. "Back off or I kill her. She's mine. She was always mine." Marco kept his gun trained, but didn't advance. "You don't want to do this. My boss is already on his way. You hurt her. You don't leave this building alive." David laughed, the sound unhinged. "I've watched her for months. Watched her living in his house, wearing his ring, painting like she's free. But she's not free. She's mine. I'll die before I let him keep her." The knife pressed harder. Linda felt warm blood trickle down her neck. Then Lorenzo appeared in the doorway behind Marco, and Linda had never seen such cold fury on a human face. "Release her." His voice was death itself. "Or I'll make your last moments on Earth so painful you'll beg for hell." David flinched but tightened his grip. "You can't have her. She's mine. She's mine. She chose me. She wears my ring. And you're going to die tonight for touching what belongs to me." Lorenzo's certainty was absolute. "Your only choice is how much you suffer first. Release her, and I'll make it quick. Keep that knife at her throat, and I'll take days killing you." The promise in his voice made David's hand shake. But pride or madness kept him from surrendering. "You think you're so powerful. You're just a thug with money. I can give her a real life, not this criminal world." Lorenzo smiled, and it was terrifying. "You gave her nothing but fear. I gave her freedom, safety, love. And you're going to learn what happens to men who threaten my family." He nodded to Marco. Everything happened at once. Marco fired, the bullet taking David in the shoulder. He dropped the knife as he fell. Linda lurched forward, and Lorenzo caught her, pulling her away from David's reach. Security flooded in, securing David, who writhed on the floor clutching his bleeding shoulder. Lorenzo's hands ran over Linda frantically, checking the cut on her throat. "Are you hurt? Did he hurt you anywhere else?" "I'm okay. It's just a scratch." But her voice shook uncontrollably. "Ambulance is coming," Marco reported. "Police too. Story is interrupted burglary." Lorenzo cupped her face. "Can you tell them what happened? That you were working late, heard someone break in, they attacked you." Linda understood. He was giving her a script that wouldn't involve explaining her connection to David or Lorenzo's world. "Yes, I can do that." His thumb brushed her bleeding neck with aching gentleness. "I'm so sorry. I should have protected you better." "You did protect me. You came." She pressed her forehead to his chest. "You saved me." The next hours were a blur of police statements, ambulances, and crime scene investigators. Lorenzo remained at Linda's side constantly, his hand never leaving hers. The story held up. Random attack. Security intervened. Attacker was arrested. David would face charges for assault and attempted kidnapping. And once he was in the system, Lorenzo's lawyers would ensure he never breathed free air again. He'll go away for a long time, Marco told him quietly after the police left. And I have friends who'll make sure he understands what happens to men who touch the boss's wife. Linda should have been horrified by the implied threat. Instead, she felt only relief. David would never hurt her again. By the time they returned to the penthouse, Linda was exhausted and shaking with delayed shock. Lorenzo ran her a bath, undressed her with gentle hands, and washed her hair while she cried, letting all the fear pour out. "I've got you," he murmured over and over. "You're safe now. I'll never let anyone hurt you again." When the water cooled, he dried her carefully and carried her to bed. He held her through the night as nightmares plagued her sleep, waking her with soft words and gentle kisses each time she jolted awake in terror. "I'm here, amore. You're safe. He can't touch you anymore." By morning, Linda's fear had transformed into something else. Gratitude, relief, and a bone-deep certainty that Lorenzo was her future. "Marry me today," she said as they lay tangled together in early light. Lorenzo pulled back to look at her. "What? I don't want to wait 3 months. I want to be your wife now.
Today.
Please." His eyes searched hers. "Are you sure? You've been through trauma. You should take time." "I'm sure. I've never been more sure of anything. I want to be yours officially. Want your name. Want the world to know I'm under your protection." She kissed him fiercely. "Marry me today, Lorenzo Russo." He groaned against her mouth. "How can I refuse when you ask like that?" "Yes, today. We'll marry today." They called his family, who scrambled to arrange everything. By that afternoon, Linda stood in Lorenzo's mother's living room, wearing a simple white dress his sister had rushed out to buy, surrounded by his warm, loud, loving family. A judge who owed Lorenzo favors performed the ceremony. The words were in English and Italian, and when Lorenzo slipped a wedding band beside her engagement ring, Linda felt something settle into perfect rightness. "Con questo anello, io ti sposo," Lorenzo said, his voice thick with emotion. "With this ring, I marry you. You're mine forever now, cara mia. In this life, and whatever comes after." "Ti amo," Linda whispered. "I love you. Forever." They sealed their vows with a kiss that held promise, passion, and absolute devotion. The reception was joyful chaos. Lorenzo's family celebrated with food, wine, and enough love to fill the entire city. Linda found herself passed from hug to hug, welcomed into the fold with overwhelming warmth. "Your family now," Lorenzo's mother told her, cupping her face. "Family is everything. We protect our own." That night, Lorenzo carried her over the threshold of their penthouse as his wife. He made love to her slowly, reverently, worshipping every inch of her body like she was something sacred. "My wife," he murmured against her skin. "Mine forever." "Yours forever," she agreed, crying happy tears. 3 months later, Linda stood in their bathroom staring at a positive pregnancy test. Joy and terror warred within her. She wanted this baby desperately. But they'd only been married such a short time. Would Lorenzo be ready? She found him in his study, working late on some business deal. When she entered, he immediately pushed aside his papers and held out his hand. "Come here, wife. I've barely seen you all day." Linda went to him, letting him pull her onto his lap. "I have something to tell you. Tell me." His hands settled possessively on her hips. She placed the test in his hands without words. Lorenzo stared at it, his expression unreadable. Then his eyes lifted to hers, and she saw tears. "We're going to have a baby?" "Yes." "Are you happy?" "I know it's fast." He silenced her with a kiss that tasted like salt and joy. "Happy? Cara, you've given me everything. Your love, your trust. Now a child. I'm not happy. I'm blessed. His hand moved to her stomach with aching tenderness. Our baby. Our family. Linda leaned into him, feeling complete. I love you. Ti amo mia moglie. Ti amo tanto. He switched to Italian, the emotion too big for English. You've given me a life I never dared dream of. A home. A family. Everything. 7 months later, Linda went into labor during a thunderstorm that rattled the penthouse windows. Lorenzo remained at her side through every contraction, holding her hand and whispering encouragement. When their daughter finally arrived, tiny and perfect with a full head of dark hair, he wept openly. Bella, he murmured, cradling their child with steady hands that usually dealt death, but now held only life. She's Bella, like her mama. Linda watched her dangerous, powerful husband transform into a gentle father, and her heart overflowed. This was their happy ending, but also their beginning. A life built on trust, devotion, and a love that had started with her hiding beneath a restaurant table and ended with a family more precious than she'd ever imagined. What should we name her? Lorenzo asked, unable to take his eyes off his daughter. Gianna, after your grandmother. The suggestion made him look at her with such love it hurt. Gianna Blake Russo. Perfect. He leaned over to kiss Linda softly. Thank you for choosing me that night. For trusting me. For giving me everything. Thank you for keeping your promise. For protecting me. For showing me what real love looks like. They sat together in the hospital room, their daughter sleeping peacefully between them, and Linda marveled at the journey. From terrified woman hiding under a table to wife and mother, safe in the arms of a man who'd proven over and over that his possessiveness came from devotion, not control. That his protection was a gift, not a cage. Years would bring challenges. The nature of Lorenzo's world meant danger was never far away. But Linda never doubted his commitment to keeping his family safe. She'd seen the lengths he'd go to protect what was his. And she was his. Completely, devotedly, eternally his. Just as he was hers. Their life wasn't perfect, but it was theirs. Built on trust. Sealed with promises. Defended with ruthless love. And that was more than enough. It was everything. As Gianna grew, she became a perfect blend of both parents. She had Lorenzo's dark eyes and commanding presence, Linda's creativity and warm heart. By the time she was 3, she ruled the Russo household with adorable tyranny, having both parents and all uncles wrapped around her tiny finger. Linda continued painting, her work growing more confident and sought after with each showing. Lorenzo remained her biggest supporter and fiercest protector, never missing an opening and threatening any critic who dared speak ill of his wife's talent with the kind of smile that made wise men reconsider their words. On their 5th anniversary, they returned to the restaurant where it had all begun. Rosa had kept Linda's original position open for months before finally hiring someone else, but she'd saved Linda's name tag as a memento. I knew the day you started that something special was happening, Rosa told them over dinner. The boss never came down from his office. But that night, he couldn't stop watching you. And when you disappeared under that table, I thought he might actually hurt someone for threatening you. He did hurt someone for threatening me, Linda said, squeezing Lorenzo's hand. Multiple someones. And I'd do it again, Lorenzo said without hesitation. Anyone who threatens my family faces me. That will never change. They sat in the same booth where Linda had hidden that first night, and Lorenzo pulled her close. Do you remember what I told you that night? That you were mine from the moment you touched me? I remember. I thought you were insane. I was. Insane with the need to protect you. To claim you. To make you understand you'd found your safe harbor. His lips brushed her temple. I'm still insane about you. More every day. Linda turned in his arms and kissed him deeply, not caring who saw. Good. Because I'm insane about you too. You're my everything, Lorenzo. My home. My heart. My forever. Forever and beyond, he agreed. In this life and whatever comes next. As they left the restaurant that night, Linda paused at the entrance and looked back. This place had changed her life. Had given her everything she'd never dared dream of. safety,
love,
family.
purpose.
All because she'd been desperate enough to hide under a table and lucky enough that the man whose protection she'd sought turned out to be the love of her life. Behind her, Lorenzo's hand settled possessively on her waist. Ready to go home, amore? Always. As long as home is with you. They walked into the night together, surrounded by security that blended into shadows, protected by a love that had conquered fear and trauma. And Linda knew with absolute certainty that wherever Lorenzo Russo was, that's where she belonged. Under his protection. In his arms. Forever and always. His to love. His to cherish. His to keep safe from all the darkness in the world. Because that's what he'd promised the night she'd crawled beneath his table. And Lorenzo Russo always kept his promises.